there, I'm Jules. Nice to see you. The word of the day today is disorder, kind of like obsessive compulsive disorder, which I may or may not have, and you can't make me tell you, can you? If you'd like to know why disorder is the word of the day, watch my next video and then read the description to find out. Hi babes, today we're playing Seduce Me 2 again. So this is 2.2. Yeah. This is crazy, much crazier and quicker than the last game. There's just a lot going on right off the bat, which I'm not mad about. Right now I'm in the demon world. Maybe that's hell, but I don't know if that's hell. I'm not sure. But I am being taken to a bedroom just to sleep. That's it. I hope. I'm supposed to be married. I hope that's all that I'm doing. Well, let's find out. Oops. Okay. The woman led me to a room that practically screamed medieval fantasy. Everything was clean, but it still had that old age feel, as if no one had ever stepped foot in the room until that moment.
Rest here for now. When Diana is well again, we can discuss what to do.
I always blast my ears every time. Thank you. I nodded to the woman before she gently curtsied and left, closing the door behind her. I took a moment to observe my surroundings, interested in understanding the aesthetic. This was fantasy turned into reality. It was like I had gone back in time. That's cool as hell. Why, though? Was the demon world really that behind in the times? Or did magic supersede technology, and this was the result? Despite the situation I was in, which was beyond heartbreaking and terrible, my curiosity began to fester in my mind, as if I was given a golden opportunity to learn something new. However, my thoughts began to drift, and I felt myself becoming weak and dizzy, no doubt from the shock and trauma I had gone through. I stumbled towards the bed, needing to sit down and let everything settle in without passing out. As my rear hit the mattress, however, I let out a small, pleasured sigh. Holy crap, this is a comfy mattress. I felt myself fall back, and my entire body simply melted into the softness beneath my body. My body melted into the softness beneath my body. Okay. It was like I was sleeping on a cloud. Was that possible? Demon magic may have had something to do with it, but I was certain that I was drifting into almost a blissful sleep just by lying on the blankets and mattress. Not caring that I was still in my dress, I closed my eyes and drifted to sleep. I needed the rest, since Diana wouldn't be available for a while anyway. Darkness surrounded my mind, my dreams remaining silent and hushed in the cool and calm black. No nightmares appeared and no sounds were made. I was simply resting, and that was all my body needed. I let my thoughts wander in my subconscious, thinking about what was going to happen now. What will the boys do when they realize I'm gone? What will he do? I imagined him finding a way through to the demon world and pulling me back to where I belonged, wrapping me in his arms and swearing never to let me go. I would be relieved, and we'd be married just as we planned. How unrealistic was that? I had to be realistic right now. I was stuck, and the only one who seemed to be able to send me back was Diana and her companions, whoever they were. I had to trust them, whether I liked it or not. Eventually, I did rise from my sleep, somehow fully refreshed and calm. How could that have been?
Did you have a good rest?
I turned my head to see Diana at the door, arms crossed and leaning against the door's archway. She had a look of concern and pure curiosity on her face as she awaited my answer. Are you okay? Diana stared at me, slightly shocked. Did she not expect me to ask?
Huh. Well, yes, I'm fine now that I've had proper rest.
That's good. Diana shook her head and stepped into the room, closing the door behind her.
So we need to find another way to get you back to the human world. It won't be easy, but I believe it can be done by tonight, at the latest.
Tonight? Really? Diana nodded and crossed her arms again, leaning on one hip.
It will take time to get our shadow agents to gather the necessary supplies, but they are not hard to obtain, being that we're in a position of power. You must be lucky.
What do you mean? Diana sighed before casting a short spell under her breath. In front of me appeared a floating map, almost like a hologram. It showed an entire world with mountains, plains, and forests, and it was all surrounded by sea and water. Diana pointed at a marker that had a purple banner at its tip. It was marked in the center of some mountain and forest area. It was also the very center of the map.
That is where we are currently, the center of the abyssal plains.
Diana then ran her finger in a circle around the marker, showing a perimeter around it.
Everything we need for the spell is within this area. It will just take time to gather the materials and prepare it.
I nodded, understanding the situation. I was going to hopefully be able to go home tonight, which is better than not going home at all. So what should I do until then?
My suggestion? Stay in this room. I can mark this room as off-limits so that no demon may enter that would confuse you for an intruder and kill you.
I gulped. I did not want to die. As Diana made the magical map disappear, she shrugged.
However, I cannot stop you from whatever you wish to do. Just don't leave the castle.
I nodded as she turned to leave. As she stepped out, Diana looked back to me with a reassuring look.
We'll get you back to the human world. I promise you that.
Finally, she left me alone in the room. I let out a small sigh and looked up at the ceiling. I had to wait until tonight to actually do anything. What was I going to do? Part of me agreed with Diana's suggestion, wanting to stay in the room and be safe in case the guards didn't know who I was and would kill me on sight. My curiosity, however, wouldn't leave me alone and wanted me to explore the castle. I was handed an opportunity to explore a castle in the demon world, and part of me did not want it to go to waste. I was torn on what to do. It's boring if I stay in the room, but I don't want to die. I'll explore. There was no way I was letting this chance pass me by. I stood and walked towards the door, opening it a crack and looking around. There was no one in the hall, but there were 2 directions to go. Which way? Left or right? I'm gonna go with right. I went with right. I closed the door behind me as I exited my room and began to make my way down the right corridor. Everything was definitely medieval style, and I felt a bit small in the hall. It was like I was in a fairy tale, walking around in a wedding dress. It felt almost dreamlike. The passage seemed long, decorated with wall candles, paintings, and random curtains and flowers. It was mystical to see, and I smiled. As I approached another fork in the hall, however, I sighed. Really? How does anyone find their way around? I looked back, knowing I hadn't walked far from my room. I could turn back. Yet. I'll go left this time. I was heading right, so I decided to try the opposite direction this time around. I turned left and headed down the hall, greeted by more fantastical decor. The hallways began to almost drive me nuts. I found myself going upstairs, then downstairs, then wound up in a 4-way corridor. Where have I landed myself? I became frustrated. Maybe giving in to my curiosity was a bad idea. However, the sound of an argument traveled through the air and caught my attention.
And you brought me this. Why?
Sir, the Rebel Queen demanded it be brought here along with the other materials.
A flower is not important to the ritual. Throw it away or something.
But, sir...
I don't want to hear it. Get out!
From a nearby door, a man dressed in a dark cloak holding a white lily-like flower practically ran out. He left the door ajar, but let out a sigh before turning to walk away, not noticing me. What the... I walked over and peeked in, seeing that the room was a library. It was huge, and in the middle of it, by a table covered in books, was the lanky man who cast the shadow spell before.
I know you were there, human.
How did he know? What? Was he able to smell me or something? The man turned to look at me from over his shoulder.
Please don't just stand there. If you wish to come in, then come in. I'm not fond of people peeking into doorways.
Immediately, I stepped into the room, not wanting to be rude. The man turned towards me and crossed his arms, taking in my full form.
Well, what may I help you with?
Huh? Oh, I was just wandering around. I didn't mean to intrude on anything.
You needn't. You'll be returned to the human world soon enough.
I bit my lip. He was right. I really didn't need to wander around if I was never going to return. Still, my curiosity was pulling me to explore the castle, and there I was, in a library. Well, I simply wanted to see more of the place I happened to land in.
I see. And have you found anything of interest in your little exploration?
I found this library, didn't I?
That you have.
The man turned back to the table as I took a moment to look around. There were so many books, it was almost dizzying to peer at them all. How much information was stored here? The man glanced at me as he continued to work on whatever he was focusing on.
I'm curious about something, human. Since you're here, you can answer this.
I turned back to the man as he straightened up and faced me once again.
Are you well-versed in war?
No. Excuse me? That came out of nowhere. Why would he expect a woman in a wedding dress to know about war? No, I can't say that I am. Humans tend to try and stay out of war.
Truly? I'm surprised. I've heard that your world is ruled by multiple leaders and beliefs. How are you not constantly at war?
Well, we are. From the tone of his voice, it almost sounded like he was mocking me. Did he think little of humans? I glared. We try and maintain peace because we all know we're different. We don't always agree on things, but we all mostly agree that war is bad, so we avoid it. The man took one more look up and down my form, most likely searching for some physical sign that I was lying or exaggerating. When he seemed to notice that I wasn't, he rubbed his chin gently as he leaned back against the table behind him.
Humans are such interesting creatures. You have your own societies and countries, ruled by presidents and governments. You are ununited, and yet you thrive. I wonder if the demon world can benefit from such a seemingly ignorant agreement.
Was he being serious right now? Why was he being stuck up? I crossed my arms, glaring harder at him. Why does it matter to you what the human world does? You're a demon. Things we do there don't affect anything here.
Ah, but that is where you are mistaken.
The man walked around the table and gestured to the books and maps that had covered its surface.
When fighting a war, you need to look at all of the details to try and find the most efficient ways to bring your enemy down. When resolving it, you must be able to not only bring peace, but you must also know how to manage the land you have conquered in the aftermath.
I looked at the map to see multiple routes and ideas plastered over the parchment. Was he seriously doing this much research for war? However, the man simply crossed his arms.
Unfortunately, I suppose that research on the human world would be for naught. We are two different worlds, after all. Yours is built on steel and electricity, while our world is flooded with magic and stone.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why was he even talking to me at this rate? The man smirked at the agitated look on my face and chuckled. What's so funny?
I guess it's also true that humans are easily angered. Your expression gives you away so easily.
I growled before turning on my heel and leaving the library. Rude ass. I was better off in my room. I didn't think he was that rude. I remained in my room until the night came. I was given food, which looked like soup. The woman who gave it to me apologized, letting me know that food was scarce until the upcoming harvest, which was a couple of days away. Being that I was only staying the day, I didn't mind much. I was more concerned over what I was given to eat. It was some sort of stew with mysterious chunks swimming in its broth. It smelled surprisingly good, but who knew how it tasted? Just eat it. I gulped. I had to try it. I had to eat it. I hadn't eaten in 2 days, even before I came to the demon world. Why? I was pretty certain Diana wouldn't poison me now, and I was fairly certain that she wouldn't serve me anything disgusting. I lifted the spoon that was sitting in the broth, letting it capture some of the stew as it rose. I mean, it wasn't terribly scary to look at. I gulped and slowly brought the spoon to my lips, feeling the heat emanate from the stew. A knock rapped on my door, breaking me out of my train of thought. Huh? Come in. The door opened to reveal Diana with a plate holding things I recognized. Bread and cheese. I let out a heavy sigh of relief before Diana laughed.
I suggest not trying that. As good as it smells, the taste would not sit well with you.
Instantly, I moved the bowl to the nearby table, thankful that I did not have to try it. Diana handed me the plate and nodded, reassuring me that what was on it was indeed what it seemed.
It's not much, but it's human food. Eat up.
I will. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach dissipate with each bite and swallow. The food I was eating, surprisingly, was delicious. As I began to crave something to drink, Diana chuckled and formed a small goblet in her hand, filled with clear liquid that I assumed to be water. I took it and drank it down, feeling my thirst quenched before I let out a sigh. I feel so much better.
I can tell. Take a moment to finish eating. Then we'll head for the ritual.
I looked up at Diana, suddenly excited. Everything was prepared for? Was it possible to go home now? As if she read my mind, she smiled and nodded.
We finished the main preparations. We just need to head over and we'll start.
I couldn't continue eating. My mind went into an obsessive frenzy of wanting to go home. I stood up, moving the plate and goblet to the nearby table. Let's go.
Huh? Are you sure?
I nodded, not wanting to waste any more time. I needed to get home, and I was tired of waiting. Diana stared before nodding and heading for the door, opening it for me and exiting after me. As she closed the door behind her, I began to feel my heart flutter in relieved joy. I was heading home. Diana led me down the corridors to the war room, where I had originally arrived, to reveal the table covered in plants and artifacts of different kinds. None of it made sense to me, but I had to only assume it was what was needed for the spell to work. Diana walked to the table and took note of what she saw, nodding.
This should work.
You're in doubt?
Have to be after the last time we tried sending her home. Do we have a human anchor?
No, you're on your own this time. But we'll make sure you survive casting it.
This spell should work, however, because we'll be using energy material. It will only require a slice of your energy on top of these items, which your guard can refill immediately after this.
Just make sure you don't die casting it.
Diana smiled at her guard before turning to me.
So, are you ready to return home?
She didn't have to ask. I'm ready. Diana nodded once more before turning back to the table. She lifted her arms over the surface and lowered her head, muttering under her breath.
O tenebris portas, apriat nobis, largiatur exidium, desiderium.
As she spoke, the table began to glow as she did. A dark purple aura began to surround her form as she lifted and arched her head back, staring at the ceiling. A glimpse of her eyes made me gasp. Warm golden orbs covered her blood-red irises, glowing with magic. She was deep within the spell, and I could see it slowly draw energy from her body. The items on the table began to gleam wildly, light orbs floating from them and dancing in the air above the table's surface. They began to weave back and forth with each other, almost as if the lights were dancing to a silent tune. The other demons stepped back as Diana moved her arms up and pointed to the dancing lights. Her finger pointed into the air, leading the lights to follow where it directed obediently. She drew a large circle in the air, and the lights followed like a perfect trail, spreading out and forming a large void in the air. As I finally stopped moving, they burst into a bright light, causing the demons and I to cover our eyes from it. It engulfed the room, but died down just as fast, revealing a small tear in the air. Diana quickly leaned forward and dug her hands into it before pulling the tear apart, revealing my bedroom. Diana continued to pull the tear open, giving enough space for me to jump through.
Hurry and go through! This is your chance!
I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I gripped the bottom of my dress and rushed forward, using momentum to jump into the air and forward towards the void. I could almost reach it. I could feel the air conditioning of my room right at my fingertips.
She will never leave this world alive!
How did I know something was gonna happen? The Demon Lord's voice rang through the air as I saw my fingertips pass through the tear. What stopped the rest of my body was a red light and force, forcing me and Diana back from the opening. Ah! I felt my body fly backwards and slam into the wall before I landed on the stone ground. I heard Diana as well land beside me with a painful thud. I looked up and felt my heart break as the tear became wrapped in red lighting, zipping itself closed and vanished into thin air. No, this could not be.
Damn it!
That should have worked! How could it have failed?
We must have missed something. Was there anything we had forgotten?
No. I verified everything myself.
Then why was the Demon Lord able to overpower a gate spell?
I highly doubt you know either, brute.
Stop fighting! We need to make a plan and all of you are just being stupid! Stupid, 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 stupid!
Okay, it's because he threw the flower away, hello?
Are you alright, Isaiah?
I'm fine.
I was too lost in my mind to fully understand what was going on around me. I was so close. I felt the other side. I'd almost made it home. Why couldn't I go home? Diana's grunt of pain next to me made me shoot my head towards her, and I watched her slowly push herself off of the ground and glare at the table.
The Demon Lord must have done something more than simply bring her here.
What could he have done?
The Demon Lord is incapable of doing anything of the sort. His lackey imps must have done something to her.
A spell?
A curse.
I looked to the rabbit woman, seeing her stare wide-eyed at me. The other demons looked at me as well, and suddenly I felt like I was on display. Was something wrong with me?
She will not leave the demon world alive. He must have placed some sort of curse on her to prevent her from leaving this plane. In order to leave, she'd have to die.
What? My mind went blank. Did the Demon Lord really curse me? Was I forced to stay in this world until I died? I could never go back?
Are you suggesting a barrier curse?
That would explain the red energy that sealed the tear.
But dark magic like that requires
Blood of 1,000 demons. He must have sacrificed part of his army to cast a curse on her that would prevent her from leaving.
The Demon Lord is that desperate for her.
For me?
The only way to break that kind of curse is to kill the caster, the Demon Lord himself.
She's trapped here until this war is over.
My body began to shiver violently. The Demon Lord killed 1,000 demons just to trap me here? Why? Why? I slammed my fist into the ground and began to scream. I want to go home. Why? I could feel the sympathy and anger in the room, but I didn't care. I was beyond livid. I was far past broken. I was seeing red. Ah! As my voice ripped through the air, a bright light erupted through the room once again. Everyone covered their eyes, but Diana quickly scrambled to get on her knees and cover me with her body. That's sweet. She held me tightly as the light invaded the space and slowly began to fade. As the light finally died, everyone moved their hands to see what had happened. In the air was a white tear that was slowly opening, facing down towards the table. Something was coming. I could feel it in the air. The guard summoned his spear and pointed it at the tear, glaring at it and gritting his teeth. Is it Eric?
Something's coming!
In reply, Diana summoned what looked like a saber and placed it in front of us.
Ready yourselves! It could be the Demon Lord!
The other demons in the room readied themselves and stared at the tear, either holding a weapon or preparing a spell. I felt the air change, becoming heavier as the tear began to grow. The energy around it began to pulsate, making everyone in the room that much more tense. I stared at the tear as well, frightened as to what was coming. Was it the Demon Lord? His minions? My mind began to cycle through fearful ideas of what was about to appear. Okay, it's all of them. My heart almost stopped. Fallen from the tear and landing on the table were the 5 incubi brothers. They were piled on top of one another, having come through one at a time. However, as the last brother landed, the boys fell to one side, toppling off of the table and landing on the floor. The rebels around me stared at the fallen pile of incubi, confused and surprised. As the tear in the air closed, the ogre man was the first to lower his sword.
What the hell?
Who are they?
Careful, they could be the Demon Lord's men.
They don't know the royal people? No! The rebels looked to me as I stood up, Diana following and still protecting me, and I stared at the boys on the ground. They all looked dazed and a bit shell-shocked from having fallen twice in rapid succession. I almost couldn't believe it. There they were, right in front of me. My mind couldn't help but remember how I had first met them. They had all been on the floor of my mansion, unconscious and wounded. Now they were in front of me in the demon world. I know them. I stared at the one I was meant to marry, seeing him slowly shake his head and rise from the ground. They came to rescue me. He came to rescue me. My heart became overjoyed and full of warmth and happiness. I was going to go home. The question was, how? At the sight of the boys kept the demon's attention. A second tear opened above them, causing everyone to look up. 4 women dropped down from the tear and somehow managed to fall into the arms of the incubi behind Eric.
Whoa!
Carrie.
I gotcha!
Twyla.
Whoa! Are you okay?
Norin?
I gotcha! It's okay!
James!
Iridessa. That's the name of one of Tinkerbell's fairy friends.
Whoa! Are you alright?
I stared wide-eyed. Their wives came too? I watched as the boys and the girls finally planted themselves on the ground before looking around. As Eric spotted me, however, he began to rush towards me.
Princess!
I wanted to rush back to him. I wanted to run over and wrap my arms around his neck. I missed the touch of his lips, his embrace. Yet my body would not allow me to move forward. In fact, I shied away and hid behind Diana, gripping her waist and averting my eyes from him.
What the?
Still?
I shut my eyes, despite my heart screaming at me to turn toward Eric. I knew that he would enthrall me to break this hold on me, so I wanted to look at him and let him. However, my body continued to duck behind Diana's body, avoiding Eric's gaze. As I heard Eric step forward, Diana wrapped an arm around her, and placed it on my back. For some reason, I felt comforted by her touch. Was she casting a spell on me?
Diana, if you please.
Not until you explain what is going on. Why does she hide from you?
I assure you, it's not what you think.
I will not repeat my question.
I felt Diana's hand clench over my back. I felt unnatural elation wash over me at the protection she was providing me, but my heart cried out for Eric.
She does want to see Eric. Something's stopping her from doing that.
And I'm supposed to believe this?
Please, just let me.
I watched from behind Diana as her guard quickly stepped forward and placed himself between Diana and Eric, spear pointing at my incubus.
I suggest not taking another step forward.
Wait!
The rabbit-eared woman, in the midst of the tension, quickly rushed over to me and bent down to look at me directly in the eyes. I looked at her, trying to convey my need to see Eric through my eyes.
Hold still, okay?
What are you?
Ostende mihi kotum.
Staring into the woman's eyes, I watched as a warm gold hue painted over her sweetly pale blue eyes before she closed them. As if something had been unlocked, a large click resonated through my mind. All at once, I felt my will take control, and I stood up straight, now finally able to do what I desired without any resistance.
Love.
Eric! I quickly ran around Diana and rushed towards Eric, wrapping my arms around his neck and feeling him envelope me in his own arms. His warm embrace made my heart squeeze in my chest as I held him close to me. I smiled as Eric kissed over my cheeks, his embrace conveying how happy he was to have me back, willingly, in his arms. Kiss him! I tightened my arms around Eric and tilted my head to kiss him. My heart fluttered at the touch and taste of his lips against mine. He eagerly kissed me back, tightening his own hold on me lovingly. Diana turned to the rabbit-eared woman with a look of pure confusion on her face.
What? Just...
She's under some sort of secondary spell. Repulsion, it seems. What I cast on her was an emotional release spell, and that temporarily removed the hold on her.
But she's been here a full day, and none of us felt any sort of hold on her.
Well, we didn't exactly figure out that she was cursed either.
Cursed?
I felt Eric's hold on me tighten as I looked up at his face. He looked to Diana with an expression full of concern and confusion. As I heard Diana sigh, I turned slightly to watch her cross her arms.
Yes. She's been cursed by the Demon Lord. She cannot leave until she dies or until we kill him.
The incubi looked at each other in surprise, but Eric kept his eyes to Diana and kept me tight in his embrace.
I'm assuming you plan to kill the Demon Lord, right? When will this happen?
Yes, in 1 week's time.
1 week?
Where is this number coming from, Succubus?
We need to fully prepare ourselves for the final stage, which I'm certain will only take a couple of days. We've pinned him into a corner. The Demon Lord will fall.
That's rather bold to assume.
She's right, though. We can prepare everything in that time frame, right?
And if he does the same and attacks us before then?
He won't.
I watched as Diana walked over and cleared the table of the materials they had gathered for the gate spell, revealing a physical map of the abyssal plains. She pointed to a spot on the map, a peninsula surrounded by water labeled as the Decaying Sea.
We'll cast a barrier spell along the edge of the peninsula and around the castle. He and his army won't be able to move from that spot until we break it ourselves, which will be during the siege.
Where would we get the energy needed for that kind of spell?
We won't be using energy.
The other rebel demons in the room suddenly tensed up, staring at Diana in surprise. What was she going to do?
My lady, you're not suggesting...
The Demon Lord has shown how far he is willing to go to win this war. It's only fitting to show the extent we'll go to in response.
As much as I agree with you, this seems a little rash.
What are you guys talking about?
Are they allowed to know?
I plan to put a barrier curse around the Demon Lord's castle and army. It's temporary, so it won't need the blood of 1,000 demons. But it will need the sacrifice of at least 1 demon life.
Uh-oh.
And I assume you'll be sacrificing one of my soldiers.
Is this our only option?
There are other options, but they will most likely take a lot of energy to pull off.
It just depends on what we want to do. If we want to do this immediately, then the barrier curse is indeed the best option.
I'm not opposed to performing the curse. As rash as it is, it will make our lives easier in the long run.
You expect me to hand over one of my men? My soldiers joined the rebellion to kill the Demon Lord, not to get their throats slit before even seeing the final battle?
It's wrong, but can we really afford to spend any more energy? Diana already spent a lot trying to send the human back.
What is the other option?
The rabbit woman and the fairy moved towards the map and pointed at the peninsula.
We could form tall rock walls around the castle. Box him in.
It will take a lot of our energy, but we can recover in that week period.
And what will stop the Demon Lord from tearing down the walls?
I can imbue the walls with holy magic.
The incubi and I looked at him, all of us equally surprised. A demon with holy magic? How?
How the fuck did you get holy magic? You look and smell like a demon.
The guard held up his wrapped hand, letting the beads around it jangle with a sudden motion.
I've had the ability to use holy magic ever since I was taken in by my lady's family. There's no doubt that I am a demon, but I can't recall how I gained this ability.
How is holy magic different than demon magic?
It's white magic. Unlike demon magic, holy magic isn't so finicky. Think of it as warding or dispelling magic. You can't bless air or anything that doesn't have physical form, but you can bless objects to fight back against other forms of magic.
If the walls were blessed with holy magic, the Demon Lord wouldn't be able to escape until we released him.
Interesting.
Why not just trap him forever?
That's idiotic. He would still be a threat regardless. Holy magic doesn't last forever. And stone will crumble eventually.
He's right. We wouldn't be able to keep the walls up forever.
The situation became more and more complicated the more we discussed it. How are we going to go about this?
We can't just sit around and debate this forever. The longer we wait, the more we risk him striking back at us.
But is it worth killing someone to trap him?
When we finally strike, we will lose hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers anyway. What difference will it make to lose one more life on top of this?
Soulless fuck.
We can still cage him in.
I bit my lip. It was a really tough decision. A curse or a trap? Which was better? Both had their prices, but we had to choose one. From the look of it, no one wanted to speak up, so I felt the urge to say something. Maybe I'd be the one who would determine everything. Let me save. Let me just go ahead and save. But which method would be the best choice? I mean, I don't want some rando to die, but I don't think that's gonna hold him. I want to say the curse. Everyone in the room looked at me in surprise as I finally spoke up. The Demon Lord had trapped me here with the blood of 1,000 demons. It was only fair to trap him with the life of just one. Will the curse work with just one life?
Yes. He won't be able to escape because of its dark magic.
Are you sure this is the best choice?
A monster like him won't stop if we box him in. We have to ensure that he won't be able to do anything while we prepare to fight back. Everyone nodded, most in reluctance, while the others did with confidence. Diana, however, turned to the orc man with a stern face.
As for your reluctance, Sir Brute, we won't be using one of your men.
Well then, who would you use?
At that moment, Diana smirked, sending a familiar shiver down my spine. For a split second, I swore I saw a flash of gold cross her visible eye as she replied to Matthew.
A little mongrel who had the nerve to electrocute me in my own castle.
I stared. There really was an imp in the castle? However, my mind released the question to focus on Diana's smirk. Something was off about Diana, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was. When I came to the demon world, I had barely recognized her, and didn't expect her kindness. Now, as I was staring at her at that moment, I again recognized the woman who had attacked me in the human world. Diana shook her head before crossing her arms and looking directly at me.
So, since you'll be here for a while, we might as well give you names that you can use to refer to everyone here.
Are we getting human names?
Must we?
Diana rolled her eyes and gestured to each demon, naming them on the fly.
For the sake of time, we'll use simple names. This is Rabbit, our magic advisor. Sergeant, commander of our armies. Shadow, leader of our assassins. And Faye, our nomadic force ambassador.
Sergeant? I'm a commander, succubus. Shouldn't my name be Commander?
It's easier on the tongue, though, to say Sergeant.
True.
My lady, what shall they call me?
Diana looked at Seiro for a moment before turning towards me, a look of seriousness emanating from her eyes.
You may call him Sero. He is my personal guard, and he is always by my side.
The other demons in Seiro looked to be surprised. Was Seiro his true demon name? Why would she give me his true name?
Are you sure?
Call him only if your life depends on it. Do not abuse this permission.
His eyes seemed to burn as she gazed into mine, full of hard intent and warning. I mentally noted her seriousness as she ran a hand through her hair.
Well, now that we have a plan and introductions are out of the way, I believe we can end this meeting. We have a lot to accomplish in 1 week.
What about us? You don't expect us to sit around.
Actually, I do. You all don't belong on the battlefield.
Whoa.
I will not take untrained and unarmed beings into a war zone.
Hold on. I interjected, stepping forward and crossing my arms at Diana. She seriously wasn't going to make us stay back while she fought the Demon Lord, was she? I mean, a girl wearing, like, kitty cat tights, I don't think she's gonna be much help on the battlefield. Is this really what we should do? Diana nodded to me, a look of sincerity in her eyes as she locked her gaze with mine. I knew she was trying to protect us, but was it necessary?
Unless you can fight, I can't guarantee that you will survive this war.
Let me and my brothers train then. We're demons, for fuck's sake. We know how to fight.
The boy stared at Diana as she turned her head towards Sam. He was right, though. They knew how to train, so they knew how to fight. If they fought with the rebellion, there'd be a better chance of winning this war.
You all realize this is a war, correct? You can die here.
We understand completely.
We understand, Diana.
Diana could only stare at our group as we challenged her proclamation. I wrapped my hand around my fiancé's arm, frightened at the idea of participating in a war, but knowing that we needed all the strength we could muster to finish off the Demon Lord. This was the only way that I could go home. Defeated, Diana sighed and rubbed her temples.
Very well. I can't exactly keep you here like prisoners, so it will be up to you if you choose to train for battle. However, I highly suggest just staying here and allowing us to handle it.
I nodded, as did the others. This was really happening. We were going to kill the Demon Lord, and we had 1 week to either prepare for war or wait it out. Diana turned towards me and looked down at my outfit. I had nearly forgotten that I was still in my wedding dress until Diana pointed at my chest.
Lumen infere, bellum tabescere, serene.
I stared at her, unsure of why she was speaking in Latin, until I felt the fabric around my body shift and change. I quickly looked down to see my wedding dress morph into an outfit that looked perfect for the demon world. The white top shifted into a long-sleeved, oversized tunic with a leather corset and vest, while the bottom part of the gown split and wrapped around my legs, forming into dark leggings. My shoes stretched into long knee-high boots.
Wow. Very nice outfit.
Yeah, well, yours isn't great for the demon world. I blushed, getting used to the feel of the outfit. The corset wasn't tight, but it was still something new along with the rest of the garb. Eric, however, smiled down at me and kissed over my forehead.
You look wonderful, princess.
Thank you.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to head for the Demon Lord's castle.
Do you plan to shadow travel?
No, I have another method. Don't worry. I'll be back by morning.
Diana looked at Faye and nodded to them as they pressed their lips together in a tight line.
Faye, please escort our guests to the remaining open rooms while I'm gone.
All right.
Seto.
Yes, my lady.
Seto walked toward Diana and followed her out of the room. The other demons, however, looked towards us.
I'll take you to your rooms then.
Thank you. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Faye. My mind for a moment wandered to Diana and remembered her almost evil smirk when we decided to perform the curse. What was she planning to do? Hopefully nothing truly sadistic. I felt insanely nervous. This entire situation was beyond my imaginations. Stuck in this demon world under 2 kinds of enchantments? That was unreal even for me. Still, we were going to work towards finishing this war and getting me home. We had to do everything we can to keep our focus straight. As Eric and I were escorted to our room, I felt the need to cling to Eric's arm. It had only been a day since I'd been away from the human world, but for the longest time I had to be enthralled to get close to him. Now I was freely and willingly able to hold on to Eric's arm. I couldn't help it. I needed to feel closer to him after all this time. Being separated was not something any bride wanted from their soon-to-be partner. I wrapped my arms around Eric's arm, hearing him chuckle and lay his free hand over my arm lovingly.
You know, I wanted to walk down the aisle with you as your husband. I was so worried when you didn't show up to the ceremony.
Aw. My heart sank as I looked down. I hadn't wanted to leave him at the altar, but the Demon Lord had other plans. I gritted my teeth before feeling Eric's lips on my temple, causing me to look back up at him.
I know it wasn't your doing, love. Don't be upset. You weren't gone long.
Not gone long? I had been in the Abyssal Plains for a full day. How was that not long? How long was I missing for? Eric rubbed his neck and looked away, a small blush forming on his cheeks.
Around 5 hours.
5 hours? I was here a full day. How does that work?
Well, time runs differently here than it does in the human world. In the time it takes for an hour to go by in the human world, 5 go by here in the demon world.
My mind spun slightly at the idea. Time moved differently here? I shook my head and let it go. At least I wasn't gone for long in the human world. What happened when you found out that I was missing?
Well, your father was demanding that Sam open a missing persons investigation since he's a police officer. Luckily, James was able to calm everyone down, and with Irides's energy, he blocked everyone's memory and told them to return home and the real wedding would begin later.
With Irides's energy? So are they demons too or something? James can do that?
Only with his wife's help. That gave us time to try to locate you. When we did, we all decided to come through to get you back.
I could only imagine what it had been like, all of them huddled in a room trying to find me. I felt a little flattered, but I knew that it was because they all cared about me, the wives included. I was happy that they did, and that I was back with Eric at last. Our walk continued until I entered my old room with Eric. Our guide left us alone, needing to prep for the rest of the day. Eric sat on the bed, ushering me to sit beside him. Like a magnet, I was drawn to him, sitting beside him. I'm just gonna save. I'm just gonna save. Okay. It was a major relief from my mind to know that everything was going to be taken care of. It was an even larger relief to know that I could be with the man I loved in the meantime. I laid my head on Eric's shoulder as he wrapped an arm around me.
Are you really okay?
I nodded. The only thing that was wrong was me being trapped, but there was nothing I could do until we got to the Demon Lord. Eric seemed happy to know this as well and kissed over my head.
Well, at least you were no longer disgusted by me.
Eric, I was never disgusted by you. The feeling of love ran through my body as I settled into the situation. I could finally hold him and love him as I meant to, instead of being cruel. It was a blessing. Eric nodded once again before hugging me softly to him, laying us back across the bed. I wrapped my arms unconsciously around him and listened to the rhythm of his breathing. It was slow, relaxed, which made me in turn feel peace.
We'll get to go home soon.
I know. I closed my eyes, letting our embrace slowly entice me to sleep. It didn't bother me that I was dressed with my boots on. It was such a peaceful transition. I barely felt the shift between being awake and being asleep. I held Eric close to me, listening to his heartbeat. The simple syncopation of it filled my own heart with such joy that I could not deny the smile on my face from stretching further. Whatever held me for so long no longer had hold of my mind and my body, allowing my heart to once again guide my actions. As I slept, however, a voice I had not heard in a while reappeared.
Why? Why did you do that?
Huh? Within the darkness of my dreams appeared a familiar purple orb, floating in the vast space. I felt once again charmed by it, but I was more confused as to why it was in my dream and why it had asked me such a question. You...
Why would you do that?
Do what? What are you doing here?
I don't understand.
What are you doing here? I had to repeat myself. The orb didn't move or change, but something about looking at it made me feel unsure. Why was the spirit haunting me?
I don't understand why you like him.
Why I like Eric? Wait, was this spirit the reason I was aggressive to Eric? I glared at the orb, suddenly putting two and two together. You were the one who made me act so cruel towards him?
He's icky. He's an icky man.
He's the man I love. I loved him dearly and didn't want to treat him like I did. If I was being forced, then I needed to stop the one who was forcing me.
Loving a person doesn't make them less icky.
What is so icky about him?
He talks funny. He keeps touching you. He has those...
sex eyes?
Yeah! He's so icky! Icky!
I'm not as disgusting as you make me out to be, Spirit.
My heart jumped at the sound of Eric's voice. In front of me appeared a reddish shadow, which quickly formed himself into Eric. The orb seemed to pulsate at the sight of him.
Icky man!
My name is Eric, and you are not welcome in my princess's dreams or her body.
You're not either!
Eric! Eric looked back to me and smiled before stepping forward, making the orb back away a bit. I couldn't tell if it was in fear or anger, but the pulsing energy around the orb seemed to become larger at Eric's stare.
My duty is to protect my princess from anything that threatens her. You, rogue spirit, are considered a threat.
All you do is touch her and take her energy.
That's not true.
What else does the icky man do?
I opened my mouth to retort back, but suddenly froze, feeling my thoughts escape me. For some reason, I couldn't remember anything else Eric had done except for what the spirit said. He would kiss me, hold me, and take my energy. This was wrong. Something was definitely wrong. Why couldn't I pin down more things Eric did for me? I held my head and shut my eyes, trying to focus harder on my thoughts. Eric, however, stepped towards the orb, a group of ethereal tendrils emerging from his back.
That's enough. You don't belong here, Spirit.
I expected the spirit to fight back, but it didn't say anything more. After a moment of silence, the spirit faded into the darkness of the dream. Eric and I both let out a small sigh of relief.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm better now. Eric nodded before wrapping his arms around me.
I swear that I will keep you safe.
The words Eric spoke resounded in my chest, making me feel light and believe every word that escaped his lips. I felt safe enough just to hear his determination. Still, I couldn't help but feel a small restlessness in my body, despite being in a dream. I thought the sleeping would help my anxiousness at the situation I was in, but it only made me more worried. With this new fear in my mind, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to hold out until we defeated the Demon Lord. A spirit was really actually haunting my thoughts. This was insane, to say the least. Still, the spirit was quelled for now, at least until we found a way to expel it from my body. I woke that morning before Eric, physically refreshed but mentally troubled. The event that ran through my dreams both bewildered me and scared me. How long was the spirit going to be stuck to me? A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts and woke Eric.
Who's there?
It's us. We brought food.
Can we come in?
Huh? Sure. He's just shirtless, man. Okay, I'm gonna call it here. That is crazy. I'm being haunted by an orb. I really thought that I was pregnant and that was like the spirit of my baby since like they're, what did they say? They like, what's the word? You know what I'm trying to say. They're aware of themselves like as babies, which is weird as hell. But I guess that's not true. It's just a weird rogue spirit, I guess, that doesn't like Eric for some reason. If it was Eric's baby, I don't think it would hate Eric. So weird. I really like this game, so we're gonna keep playing, and I'm glad I didn't get to a sex scene. I was afraid. I was afraid right there. I saved because I was like, I don't know if there's gonna be a sex scene. But we did not get one, so that's good. I hope you had fun playing because I did, and I'll see you later.